friends, foes, folks, enemies, everyone in between. Welcome back to another Who Is Wednesday. My name is Ross Oteri, and you are listening to Who Is with Ross Oteri. And today we have a very hyper local, super focused, Vancouver-centric, I should actually say UBC-centric, University of British Columbia, that is, episode with a Mr. Solomon Yi-Kieran. That's how you pronounce that last name, too. That's correct?
Good job.
Thank you. Solomon, we always start the show with one question. Who are you?
That's really open-ended. My name's Solomon Yi-Kieran. I am going into my third year in UBC history. I want to be a high school teacher one day. So that's the dream job there. What else about me? I've been learning to play the banjo. I speak English, Mandarin, Chinese, and a little tiny bit of Welsh. 1 year on Duolingo for that. And I was born in Vancouver and then lived here for 3 months and then moved to Tianjin, China. And since then have lived in Tianjin, China, Victoria, Tianjin, China again, Courtenay, BC, Kunming, China, Nanaimo, Victoria, and then finally Vancouver. So I've been all around. I'm very much a BC person. And yeah, I'm also the VP External for the AMS. That's the student union here at UBC. And my job involves a lot of kind of lobbying the government for student issues. So the really big thing that I'm focused on right now is finally getting the Skytrain to UBC. We've been waiting for 17 years since the government first announced their involvement on that project. And I think now is really the time that students need to get involved and students need to act if they want this project to be built.
Now, that's a lot of information. Really quick, I just wanted to ask you, what was the pull back to China, back and forth?
Yeah, so my mom is Chinese and my dad's from Canada. And they really wanted to make sure that that I'd have the kind of cultural background to know both cultures, that I'd have the linguistic background to be able to speak both languages. Is why I'm able to be a fluent Mandarin speaker still. Also, when I was young, my grandfather was very sick, so there was a lot of moving back and forth so that I could be there with family, and so that especially my mom could be there with her family during kind of difficult times there. So yeah, so it was overall, I'd say, those two reasons.
Were you then, because of that experience, grow closer with your extended family than you would have otherwise?
Yeah, I'd say I'm very, very close with my extended family on both sides. Like on my dad's side, it's very close. We go up all the time for all the holidays, and it's a very tight-knit family there, and I know all my cousins. On my mom's side, even though I haven't been to China in a few years, I still I call with my grandma, my uncle every week, and it's I'm very, very close with all my family there. So it's very nice. I'd say I'm very lucky to have to know all of my relatives and to be with all my family. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a privilege that a lot of people don't have, especially coming from a background like yours where it's kind of separated.
Yeah.
Like a diasporic background, I guess. But yeah, that's fascinating stuff. A high school teacher. Why a high school teacher? They don't get paid very well. I'm sure you've never heard that before.
What? No, I never heard they're overworked or anything like that. No. I want to be a high school teacher because partly I just love history. And I think getting to nerd out about history all day to a bunch of teens would be very fun. The other thing is I really discovered my passion for a lot of the things I'm involved in when I was in high school. That's when my high school history teacher was this very dry, very gruff fella named Mr. Stanley, and he was definitely an interesting teacher to have, but he really inspired the love of history into me, and he inspired a lot of the things I'd go on to do. And I think knowing the impact that a high school teacher can have on helping a kid discover love for areas of interest, love for learning, I think that's just something that I'd really love to be able to if I was able to be a high school teacher, and if I was able to get somebody to discover a love of history and want to go on to be a historian or want to go on to do it at university or something, I'd feel very satisfied at the end of the day knowing that was an impact I could have on someone's life.
What are some things Mr. Stanley kind of instilled in you?
I think he was very much a person who, even though he was very sarcastic about it, very much believed that oh, I could go on to do great things. Like one of the things you mentioned to me that you dug up was that I had gotten accepted into Oxford, and that was very much like a thing that he was.
Humble brag much.
Yeah, I had turned it down. Yeah, no,
Wow, rejected Oxford.
Yeah, rejected Oxford for UBC.
Goes to the state school.
Yeah, I just didn't have enough money. It would have been so expensive.
Yeah.
I also just like BC on the family point. Like I just wanted to be close to family. I don't know how international students do it because I could not have like gone to the UK for 3 years. But like he was very supportive of that, and like I think he believed very much in me, and I kind of very much felt that, even if he was snarky about it. And yeah, I think it was overall very important. And I think his class was also one of my favorite classes, so it kept me being engaged and kept me wanting to go to school. So yeah.
Is there a moment that kind of sticks out to you when you think back to that class?
Oh, I don't. One thing it taught me was that I did not know how to whisper very well to my friends when I was making snarky comments. We'd sit right up, kind of at the front of the room, and one day, I don't know, we were making some joke about like seizing the means of production or something.
As you do.
Yeah, we were talking about the Cold War at the time, and he just turns to me. I hear every single thing you say. You know, I was like, okay, point taken. I need to learn how to whisper, and I need to learn how to actually pay attention in class. But there's just a lot of things like that. But yeah, I'd say overall, he'd also make a lot of jokes about like getting accepted into Oxford. Like he just made a lot of jokes about it. He was like, Mr. Big Wigs here too. That he's got accepted to Oxford, too cool for Ivy
Big
history.
man on campus. That type of joke, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so we fed my ego a little bit, but I think at the time it was pretty useful.
Yeah, that confidence, I think, being instilled that you like that these things are possible. I'm sure that like played a role like in even like the Oxford is a great example, but other opportunities that have come in your life since then. Being in rooms where a lot of people wouldn't expect like a young person to be in, especially taking on responsibilities that people might not think a young person should take on. I think that that's super important in the development of children and teenagers, and I see now like why you would want to become like a high school teacher. So now you can do that same thing that was done, not that was done to you. That sounds awful.
Yeah, please don't put it that way.
That was kind of like instill those same things that were instilled in you.
Yeah, definitely. And like he wasn't the only teacher that I think was super influential. Like there was also my homeroom teacher, Miss Easton, and then my global politics teacher, Miss Thompson. They were all super, like they all believed in me, and they made me feel like I could do a lot of things. So yeah, that's really what I want to be able to instill onto someone else one day.
Yeah. Good choice of word, instill.
Yeah, much better than do to.
Yeah. Also in high school, you were in musical theater. We talked about this a little briefly before the show started. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, so from grade 9 to grade 12, including in grade 10, which was the COVID year, I did every show that my high school's theater put on. We did 2 a year. One was a play in the fall, and one was a musical in the spring. My favorite ever thing that we did, I'd say, was probably Mamma Mia. Which was a very fun one to do. I got to play Sky, who was like the love interest there. So that was a fun time. And yeah, overall, I'd say musical theater, like it taught me to not be nervous. It was another one of those things that teaches you to believe in yourself, like to know that you can go up on stage, and even if you aren't too confident that you're going to do great, like you're going to try your best, and you're going to see how it goes, and you're going to be around a lot of very supportive people. It allowed me to make a lot of really close friends. It's where I made a lot of friends there, and a lot of friends I made before that would join it with me and would really have a good time. We'd get even closer, and it was, I'd say, a very informative and very important part of my time in high school.
Now, for people, I don't know, people who don't do that type of art may not know that there is a certain trauma bond that happens.
Absolutely.
Are there any like particular moments that stick out to you that was like, okay, we all got closer because of this not an instant maybe, or maybe just a situation that happened? I was like, okay, we are for lifers now.
I remember grade 9, my first year in musical theater. We had this tradition, this kind of secret tradition that we called Pump Up. So what we'd do is we'd all go into this loft above the theater. And this is kind of a secret, so I'm going to spill this on air. But we would go up into this loft above the theater, and what we do is we turn off all the lights, and then we get into a circle, and then we would play. I think we'd play In the Jungle, or we'd play Rasputin, and then we'd dance in a circle and just yell and holler and scream. And I was like, this is crazy. This is like a cult. But it was also, I think, like, this is also what community feels like. It's like, who knows how long ago these traditions were started? Who knows how many people were doing this before me, and now I'm here and I'm doing this with all these people. And I think looking back on that and then realizing that, like, in grade 12, in grade 9, I was watching, like, the grade 12s who were going to leave, and this was their last show lead, like, this ritual. And in grade 12, I was there. I was there then leading that ritual for, like, a new year of younger grade 9s and 10s and 11s. And I was like, wow, this has been here throughout my entire high school experience. I've gone to meet so many people. I've been here with all these people, and we've all had these shared things. And I think that is one of the things that, like, just sticks with me throughout all of that as, like, a core part of my memory of being in theater.
Yeah, that's nice. Have you brought any of those things now to your other leadership roles? Like those kind of rituals?
Interesting question. I don't think anything quite to that extent. I think it did tell me a lot about the importance of, like, a good team dynamic, though, which is really one of the things that is super important. It's like making sure that you're close with your team, that you know how to be friends, you know how to work together, because those are two very different things. And I think that's something, like, when I was in the AUS and first year, that's the Arts Undergraduate Society, I was their first year rep, and the team I had there, we were a super close team. We planned events. We published this 7-page, like, list of advocacy things that we wanted the dean to do for the arts faculty based on, like, what first years said they wanted to see changed. And I think, like, that whole year, especially because first year is a big year of transition, and it was a big year for me. I think it was really great having this team of people who, like, there was that friendship with, there was that trauma bond with, there was like, oh, we've pulled through on all these things together. And I think even now, like, in the AMS, like, the team of staff and volunteers I have putting on this whole Skytrain thing, it's like I keep thinking it even back to, like, theater and stuff about, like, how do you work with a team? How do you like, manage these things together? So it was very, like, it's definitely taught me a lot of lessons that have carried through and everything.
Biggest lesson you've learned?
Biggest lesson I've learned? Wow. I mean, being confident. Believing that even if things seem really hard, you can pull through and do it if you set your mind to it. Like, that was one of the things I learned from my high school teachers. It's one of the things that I learned in theater. Every single year in theater, I debated dropping out and stopping doing it on every show. And then I think, just because I was like, I don't know if I can do this again. There's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. And I think, scratch that. Actually, the biggest lesson I've learned is that the best things in life take a lot of effort and take a lot of time. And the things that are worth it are the things you do that go beyond, like, the usual amount of time that you have. Like, it's theater where you're spending 4 hours every day after classes doing rehearsals, or it's getting involved in a club on campus where you're spending hours planning events, or it's here at the AMS where I'm putting in, like, a 60-hour week every week in order to try to make the Skytrain thing happen. Like, it's doing something that you believe in and devoting a lot of time to that and making something really great happen. That's the biggest lesson I've learned.
Yeah, it's the effort plus consistency equals success.
Yeah,
is what I've heard it described as.
Yeah,
yeah, that's a good thing, I guess, for people's mindset to hear. That's also a really good segue into the current work you're doing now at the Alma Mater Society. With this would you call it a campaign for the Skytrain?
I'd call it a campaign for the Skytrain. That's the language we've been using for it. Yeah.
I say that because it, like, rhymes. Campaign for the Skytrain.
Oh, good catch. Good. Yeah. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. Hire me. I am looking for a job. Anyway. Yeah, this whole thing that people have been seeing about this Skytrain business. You say it's been how long since there was a commitment to build the Skytrain to the University of British Columbia?
Yeah, so back in 2008. So I was 3 years old at the time. I was born in 2005. The BC government under the premier then, who was Gordon Campbell, so 4 premiers ago, said in a big series of infrastructure plans, like within the next, or by 2020, these are all the projects we're going to do, and UBC Skytrain was one of them. And since then, it then stalled for years and years and years. I think the recession in 2008 was part of that. But they'd also just continue to deprioritize it. In 2010, they deprioritized the Broadway extension as a whole. So currently they're building the Skytrain out to Arbutus, and that's where it's going to end. That's about half an hour away from UBC. And that was deprioritized for the Evergreen extension of the Millennium Line out to Coquitlam back in 2010. And then now we're also seeing like the Surrey-Langley extensions and stuff like that take a lot of precedent in kind of provincial and TransLink level planning. So, so we've been waiting 17 years, and that entire time, the university and the AMS, they have both been lobbying super hard for this, and there's been a lot of really good work there. Like, for example, they got the UBC Skytrain into the mandate letters for the Minister of Transportation, but even since then, we've seen no further progress. There's been no further announcements. Not too long ago, the provincial government did a press release down at the Arbutus station where it's going to open, and they said something like, after this, students can take the 99 to get to UBC. That would have been a perfect chance for them to announce their commitments to funding or building the UBC extension. So, yeah, there's really just been a lack of progress. That's like the key thing there. And like even in 2021, under John Horgan, the provincial and federal governments came together and said, we'll each fund 40% of the business plan, which was like one of the key documents that needs to come out prior to building the Skytrain. They need to have the business case so that they can get a timeline, so that they can know what the economic impacts will be. And like UBC, a ton of media, they were all projecting it'd take about 1 year for them to write this plan, that we'd get into 2022. So not only is the Skytrain, we've been waiting 17 years with no progress. Not only is it kind of 5 years later than it was initially, like we're 5 years after they initially thought it would open. And we are also 3 years behind from their most recent commitment to have the timelines and plans for this all released. So I'd say I think students are kind of frustrated. And I'd say I'm also fairly disappointed that it's been taking so long when it's such a key infrastructure project.
Yeah. Well, why do you describe it as such a key infrastructure project?
Yeah, well, I guess firstly, if you're a student or a staff at UBC, like it is really going to shorten commutes a lot. So currently there are 62,000 students and about another 20,000 staff and faculty at UBC. So of this roughly 80,000 community, about 60,000 people are commuters. And they commute from all over the Lower Mainland. There are commuters from Surrey, there are commuters from Coquitlam, there are commuters from Langley. I looked at maps of this. We have 5 commuters from Lions Bay. Like, we have commuters from all over the region. And
for people not familiar with the geography of Vancouver,
yeah,
what can you kind of like quantify this scale a little bit?
Of course. So if you wanted to drive from the north part of Surrey to UBC, that's about an hour. Like, that is the difference between like 2 cities far away, because these are separate cities from Vancouver. They're in the Metro Vancouver area. For somewhere like Coquitlam, it's also about an hour. And if you're to take current public transit, that is an hour and a half to 2 hour long commute.
So it's about an hour from both like North Surrey, which is like pretty close,
yeah,
and North Coquitlam. Is that what you said?
Or like just from the core of Coquitlam,
core of Coquitlam, and that's driving in like perfect conditions.
Yeah, with no traffic, there is always going to be traffic.
An hour.
Yeah,
and that's not without the like public transportation.
Yeah, and that's crazy, considering there are thousands of students who commute from both of these municipalities to UBC every single day.
Probably a majority of them not even driving, probably taking the bus.
Definitely. Where they're taking like hour and a half to 2 hour long commutes. Like, I went around and asked a bunch of students what their commute times were at the beginning of the term. And they were all like, there were people who were commuting from like Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows and stuff who were taking like 3 hours. Like, UBC is a commuter school. Only 14,000 of our 62,000 students live on campus. And most of the commuters, I'd say, commute from outside of Vancouver, even though Vancouver is the city with the most UBC students in it. So there really is just, given the amount of students and staff and faculty who commute to campus, the Skytrain would shorten commutes so much. Like, if you live in Vancouver
How much
Currently,
would you say it would shorten it?
it depends on where you live, but anywhere from 15 minutes to half an hour.
Okay.
If you live in Vancouver, currently about half of, like the western half of Vancouver, you're about half an hour away from campus. If you live on the eastern half, that's closer to like 45 minutes an hour, depending on traffic and depending on the buses. If you live in Burnaby, that's about an hour commute. If you live out in like Surrey, Coquitlam, New West, that's closer to an hour and a half. The Skytrain would make it so that if you live, almost all of Vancouver would be under half an hour away from UBC by transit. It would mean that students who live in Burnaby are somewhere between half an hour and 45 minutes. And it would mean that students living on Coquitlam and Surrey, that commute would be shortened to about an hour or less, depending on the conditions and everything. So, and that's quite substantial. Like if you're commuting out from Coquitlam or Surrey, that is an hour saved every day. It means that you have less transfers on your commute. It means that you have less risk on your commute of getting passed up by like busy buses. And it just overall frees up so much time. It means you can wake up later in the morning, go home later in the evening. It leaves more time to spend on campus, more time to explore the city. And it just overall means there's a lot more time in a student's day. And even outside of the impact on students, like also like if you're a student who drives from Coquitlam or Surrey, we ran the math on this, and UBC has run the math. And if you were to take the Skytrain, which would now take about the same amount of time as it would take for you to drive if they built the Skytrain extension to UBC, and you didn't have to drive, that would save you about $350 a month on gas. Not to mention, it would make the roads in the entire area just so much less busy. It would mean that other commuters have fewer other cars to contend with. It would mean there's less traffic in the morning, less traffic in the evening, and it just overall is beneficial to everyone. And that's where it's like outside of students, there's still so much benefit for the entire region. Like currently,
So you're saying this because a lot of people will think of something like this as like, I'm not a student, and I've even heard some people say like, I don't even plan on having kids, so my kids aren't going to be students. Why the hell should I pay for this daggone train?
Yeah, well, I mean, initially that may seem fair, but once you think about it more, it's like fewer commuters driving their cars from Surrey means that the entire section of highway from like New Westminster up to like East Van is so much less busy. It means that if you want to drive somewhere in the morning, you have so many fewer cars to contend with. For example, the 99 is the busiest bus route in the U.S. and Canada. It has hundreds of thousands of people go on it every day. And for example, the Skytrain to UBC would alleviate a lot of that. The 99 for right now does not have the capacity needed. It passes people up all the time. The bus is crammed like sardines. And that's the same with a lot of other things, like the R4. Like, say you're a commuter who goes from, like, Joyce Station to Oak Ridge because that's where you work or something along those lines. The Skytrain to UBC would mean that the R4 is so much less busy in the morning because students from Surrey and Burnaby and New West, instead of catching the R4 to get it to UBC, would catch the Skytrain to take that to UBC instead when they transfer off the Expo line. It means that almost all of Vancouver's transit systems and buses and the current transit infrastructure would have so much less crowding. There would be so much more space. So even if you don't go to UBC, even if you don't have family that goes to UBC, even if you have nothing to do with UBC, or even if you're going to graduate before the Skytrain is built, just having the government finally build that here is going to make the rest of your commute and the rest of your time in Metro Vancouver so much more easy.
So that, yeah, all of that, that all sounds like good. My thing is, like, why haven't they done it yet? What are the barriers in place? Because this is, like, it sounds like a win-win for everybody.
I mean, I definitely see it as a win-win for everyone. Like, even beyond just commute times, it would mean that so many more people can, like, go to the businesses in, like, West Broadway, go to the businesses downtown. It makes just everything a lot better and makes it easy to explore the city. But I think why it hasn't happened, one of the big things is that in Canada, a lot of, I think, how governments go about investing in infrastructure and a lot of how governments go about investing overall in communities is a very political move. You invest in the communities in the ridings that you're trying to win in the next election. Back in 2010, when they deprioritized the Broadway Skytrain, that's the UBC Skytrain extension, They instead prioritized the Evergreen Line out to the Tri-Cities, and at the time, those were the areas that were growing the fastest. Those were the areas where all of the ridings in every election were battlegrounds. Whereas in Vancouver, like, the candidates here have pretty safe seats. Like, there's not that much of a toss-up. Like, we're in David Eby's riding. He's probably going to keep his seat. He's kept his seat since 2013. Or we're in the Vancouver Quadro riding, which has gone Liberal for years and years and years now. So when there's a lot less of like we want to invest in this riding to win it, there's a lot less reason for a government to actually invest into the transportation projects and the infrastructure in a riding. And that's the same thing we're seeing now. For example, like TransLink and the provincial government both care a lot more about the Surrey extensions and bus rapid transit in Surrey and Langley. And part of that is because when it comes to election strategies, provincially and federally, Surrey is really that like big prize you want to win. It is the area in BC with the largest number of seats in like a single area outside of Vancouver, and almost all of those seats are toss-ups that you could or couldn't win. So, for example, if you are the provincial government or the federal government, that's obviously where you're going to want to put your resources. So then in the next election, you can say, oh, look at the investments we made in this area. And that's not to say Surrey is important. It's the fastest growing city in the province. It is a area that has a lot less transit than it should. But at the same time, I don't think that investments should be made based on what's politically convenient. I don't think that's how we should decide which communities get vital transit infrastructure. I don't think that's how we decide which communities should get important attention from the government. I think given the regional importance of the Skytrain to UBC, it is not only kind of ridiculous that we've been waiting 17 years for this, but I also think there's a degree of it being unjust, just because like UBC's in a safer riding that we've gotten so much less attention from this.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, you bring up a lot of like good points I hadn't thought about before, like the political aspects of it. That essentially politicians especially want to support infrastructure in places where they could win seats versus places where it's kind of safe, where they don't feel the need to because they're gonna win anyway.
Yeah, and I really think that shouldn't be the case. It should be that politicians invest in the places that need investment.
Yeah.
And the Skytrain to UBC is an investment that the province really needs to make.
I guess there is some concern from people about the, how should I say? I don't want to call them NIMBYs.
Yeah.
But there is some concern about, like, number one, like the environment with where UBC is situated. I learned that word the other day.
Good word.
Thank you. It is across from a regional park in Pacific Spirit. See why I said it the first. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Pacific Spirit Park.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Pacific Spirit Park. There's been no cuts, by the way. This whole podcast is unedited, famously.
Yeah.
It's live, actually. We're just going.
Yeah, of course.
Pacific Spirit Park, the regional park. And there's also concerns with, like, the contacting, like, the Musqueam people as well and making sure they have their input on whether the Skytrain should be built at all.
Yeah, I think on the point of Musqueam, and I'm going to be very honest here. I'm a student union representative. I do not at all want anything I say to be taken as speaking on behalf of the Musqueam First Nation. But one of the things is I do believe that there's been a decent amount of consultation there, and I do believe that the Skytrain is something that Musqueam has been very interested in overall. It's going to be one of the things that's very important for making sure that there's actually the transit capacity for developments like the Jericho Lands development that Musqueam and the Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh Nation are leading on. And I think, so as far as I'm aware, there's been a decent amount of support from this by the Musqueam First Nation. I also believe when it comes to the NIMBYs, what I'd say is like there has been pushback from NIMBYs on this, but I'd say the environmental points are not the biggest like actual concern when it comes for a lot of the NIMBY opposers of this. Like a lot of the time, It's people who are more worried about, like, I don't want density coming to my neighborhood. I don't want students coming through my neighborhood because of all the, like, expensive single-family home mansion neighborhoods in the kind of west side of Vancouver. And I think that's kind of a lot more where the NIMBY opposition to the Skytrain would lie. But for example, like the University Neighborhoods Association, they represent all the neighborhoods on campus, so like Westbrook Village and stuff. Like these are areas that aren't the most pro-development ever, but like we've seen them come out. Like one of the things that we got from them was a letter of support for the Skytrain. And it's like when it comes to, there's a clear push from residents in the area and a clear push from like students, people who live around campus, that they want to see a Skytrain. And I think the NIMBY voices are they're a small and vocal opposition to it, as opposed to kind of the majority of people who are very strongly in support of getting the Skytrain. I know there was a poll from a few years back, which was that 82% or 80% of residents of the Lower Mainland support the building of a Skytrain to UBC. Like this is something where any opposition to it is a very small vocal minority.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Because if you had looked online, you would assume that there is a lot of people who'd be against this thing.
Yeah, well, once again, vocal minority. I think it's something that the average person, the average student, sees as something very positive, knows is very important, sees benefiting their lives directly. But I think it's a lot easier to be vocal when you're hating on something than to be vocally in support of something a lot of the time.
On the Musqueam point, though, have you consulted them, or are there any plans to consult them to get their support on this?
Yeah, so we've been talking to the Musqueam Capital Corporation. So that's the branch of Musqueam that deals with their developments like the Laleham Village, just up the street from UBC, or the Jericho lands. And they're very in favor of this. When it comes to the petition and stuff we're running, they have been bringing it up with Musqueam. That's still an ongoing conversation there that they are taking the lead on. I think when it comes to that, what's important is just that we are following what they're comfortable with and that we are consulting them in a way that is led by them.
See this? That's a politician, people. Did you see that answer? That was beautiful. If I was your PR manager, oh my God, you get 10 gold stars. That was a great answer.
Thank you. If I could jump in also on the point about like the vocal minority and stuff like that, I think that's why stuff like the petition that we're doing, as well as the rally that we're going to have on October 1st, just outside the Nest from 2 to 6 p.m. I encourage any listeners to come join. There's going to be free barbecue. There's going to be live music. It's going to be a fun time, and we're going to make sure that your voice is heard by the government and the media about wanting the Skytrain to be built to UBC. But I think on that point, like when it comes to both the vocal opposition from like a small minority of NIMBYs, as well as on the point of like the government deprioritizing this project, UBC, the community here, the community in Vancouver, we need to be vocally in support of this. This is something that there hasn't been much attention in the media for. This is something that there hasn't been much like community attention for. It's something that I think people far too easily kind of sink into seeing as a given. That this is something that they're working on, but it's also delayed. It's horribly delayed. We're not going to get it. It's going to be here after I graduate. And I think if we want the government to actually act on this, we need to make our voices heard. We need to show the government that we care, and this is something that we're going to take time out of our days to actually vocalize. And that's why the petition is important. We have over 11,000 signatures right now, over just about 2 months, from people all over the Lower Mainland, mostly UBC and Vancouver, but we have a ton of signatures from like places like Surrey and Coquitlam, where people are saying like, we want this to be built. We want to see this actually happen. And at the rally, the point of that also is to show the government that like students care about this. The community at UBC cares about this. The community in Vancouver cares about this. And I think really making that media attention, really making that political attention, making that community attention is the most important way to actually finally get the Skytrain and to show that we care about this and that we want this to properly happen.
Yeah. I think that's important. I think a lot of times people in the government especially will think, yeah, they say they want it, but like, they'll treat it as if it's a passive want. So I think that's a good point in making people like be undeniable in your want and your desire.
Exactly. Like you're saying, like, they say they want it, but are they willing to sign a petition and go to a rally about it? Is that how much they want it? And I think the answer is yes. That's how much we want the Skytrain.
Yeah. I do want to get back to a little bit on the, not necessarily a NIMBY, but some opposing arguments.
Of course.
Just to address some concerns people might have. There are concerns about like a potential increase in the level of crime, or quote unquote undesirables coming to UBC.
Yeah.
If you have like mass and available public transportation, that can bring in anyone. What would you say to those people who are worried about an increase in crime and people who are going through like a mental health crisis or, stuff like that? What would you say about those concerns?
I would say those concerns come from arguably a fairly classist and somewhat racist standpoint. Like, if you're concerned about, if you see a public transportation piece of infrastructure whose purpose is to help students and staff get to campus quicker, and the first thing you see from that is, oh, what if people from downtown or what if people from East Van come here, and see that as like, oh, what if they bring crime? I think that's not the first place someone's mind should be going. That's a very, like, that's stereotyping entire sections of this city and this region. And I think that's overall a very bad way to look at the Skytrain. I'd also say even if it was true that mass public transit would bring crime and people from all over the city here, like, the concern of it being the Skytrain that would do that when there's already buses that people could catch to come to UBC, like, it takes a lot longer, but, like, you could still come here and commit a crime. And, like, it's the fact that people are, I think this is another very, like, this is something that is not the point of why people are actually concerned about the Skytrain. This feels like it feels like almost a dog whistle. And it's not really, I think, a valid point either. And it's not really, like, if something like the 99 hasn't been bringing crime, there's no reason why the Skytrain would. And I think it also just kind of goes to show that, like, the people that you're worried about getting on the Skytrain and bringing crime, that isn't a real worry. Like, people aren't people from all over the city are just living their lives. And it is, I would say, very wrong to be projecting these images of, like, crime and substance abuse use and stuff like that onto entire sections of the city's population.
There are some students, very much like still a minority of students, who would be worried about, like, feeling safe, that the Skytrain would make them less safe. What would you say to those students?
I would say I can see where that would come from, but at the same time, I've also heard a lot of students whose kind of opinion is the opposite, where it's like, if I can just take the Skytrain and I don't need to connect, I don't need to do transfers at night, that would actually make them feel more safe. It's where you're able to directly transfer onto other Skytrain's lines instead of having to take the bus and having to transfer from different buses, like, after dark, especially during winter. Like, I have heard very much that a lot of students and staff are pro the Skytrain because it would make them feel like their commutes are safer.
Yeah, that makes sense. A question I've also seen is, why can't UBC pitch in?
Yeah, I mean, I would say part of it, like, if UBC wanted to pitch in, that'd be great. But at the same time, the real big thing is that this isn't just a Skytrain that benefits people at UBC. Like, this is something of regional importance. And I think all the points about how it would free up space on the roads, free up space on buses, this is something that would benefit people, whether they live in Vancouver or UBC or whether they live in New Westminster or Surrey or Coquitlam. And I think having the regional importance of it really should make it be a regional project. And it's something that the majority of the funding should be coming from the provincial and federal governments. It's their responsibility. They took responsibility for this project all the way back in 2008.
So your argument is essentially, like, you've already said you're going to do it.
Yeah, like, no backsies.
Yeah,
that's not how this works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What makes this moment different then? Why now? I mean, you've talked about it. This has been a thing that's been going on since 2008. Like, why do you think now is the time? Now is the best time to act?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is the fact that governments are new. Like, we are less than a year out from when the BC NDP was just re-elected to another term, and this is David Eby's first, like, full term as elected premier. We're also right now it's just months after a new federal government was elected. So I think, given the fact that these are new governments with new mandates, it is easier to try to get new priorities into the agenda. I think especially given two things. One thing, at the federal level, it's the fact that the federal government has put this big focus on like nation building projects and infrastructure and actually like building in Canada. And I think if you want to talk about building in Canada, whether that's building homes, whether that's building infrastructure, whether that's building more jobs, the UBC Skytrain is a great example of that. So that's one of the reasons why we think now is a really good chance at the federal level. And then both federally and provincially, I also think when you talk to like the government in BC, one of the things is youth are increasingly not confident in governments. They're increasingly not confident in kind of established political parties and established government figures and ideologies. And I think one of the things that we want to see from government as youth, like as student advocates, is actually listening to what youth want, actually listening to the things that youth say are important, and actually investing in students, investing in young people. And the Skytrain really is one of those things. And I think if governments want to rebuild the confidence of like the 18 to 34-year-old voter demographic, which is rapidly slipping all over the world, this, for example, is one of the tangible things that they can do to actually show that they are listening to youth and listening to the things that we want to see.
And it seems like almost like an easy win.
It should be.
Because like you got the support of a lot of the people in this neighborhood, especially like the NIMBY type who would normally be against this. A lot of them, from what you're telling me, are actually for this.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to hear back from the indigenous Musqueam to hear what they're going to say. And if they're on it, then that's another stakeholder that'd be for it. 80% from that poll that you quoted in the Lower Mainland are for this. And you provided a pretty good argument for how it can affect everyone, not just people who go here. Especially on the point of the people coming into this area that don't normally come out here, that there is no real risk because, well, especially the buses, for example, like the 14 goes to like East Hastings. Like this, it's not that big of a change in the transportation if we have a Skytrain that comes out here.
At the same time, I also don't think it's bad if people from East Hastings or East Van want to come to UBC. We have museums, we have hospitals, we have jobs, we have restaurants. Like, if people from like downtown want to come to UBC, even if they're not members of the community, just because they want to experience the things we have here, come and see the amenities and the attractions, I think that's a great thing. That's a great way to experience more of the city. That's a great way to get involved and learn more culture and learn more about the place we live.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like an easy win. And I'm sure some people who are listening to this, who are part of this community, will say, I'm ready. What do I got to do? Frothing at the mouth, pumping their chest. Skytrain. Saying, what can I do? How can I help make this a reality? How can I say to my kids that, hey, that train you're riding, that was me? Yeah. What can they do?
Well, I have two easy steps for that to be you, for you to help make the Skytrain happen. The first one is to sign the petition that we have. So if you go to ams.ubc.ca/Skytrain, you can sign the petition that currently has 11,000 signatures and counting. We surpassed our goal of 10,000 super quickly, and we want to get even more signatures before our rally in October. So that
let's say I'm gonna throw a number out there. Ready? 25,000 by when's the rally?
October 1st.
25,000 by October 1st.
That's ambitious. I was gonna say 15, but
25K. Do you think you could do it?
I mean, that's where you come in. That, as the listener, that's where you come in as a member of this community. If you want to see 25,000 signatures, you are the only person who can make that happen. Yeah, and I'd say the second thing that people can do to get involved is to come to the rally. Like I mentioned earlier, October 1st, 2 to 6 p.m., we're going to have live music. We're going to have free barbecue. Make sure to be there. Our goal is to get as many people out as possible. We're going to try to get media to come. We're going to try to get municipal, like politicians, city councilors to come out. We're going to have some fun speakers, as well as a few surprises there. We're going to have Skytrain signs. You're going to have folks from all over the Lower Mainland, from like advocacy groups for Skytrain, like Movement YVR, coming out. And yeah, it's going to be a really great time. And by going there and by showing the media, by showing politicians that you care enough to take some time out of your day, get a free hot dog, and chant for the Skytrain, that is how we show that people care. That's how we show that we as a community want the Skytrain to be built. That's how we show that we understand just how important it is. And that's how we make our voices heard to the government. And then after that, we will take everything, the Skytrain signatures, the attention from the rally, and we're going to go give it to David Eby. We're going to go lobby in Victoria, and we have some fun plans coming up with municipal advocacy and city council as well.
Do you want to announce any of the other plans that you have?
On the municipal side, we'll keep that. You'll see. Keep an eye out for it. Keep an eye out on the AMS Instagram or on city council websites and stuff. But when it comes to the other stuff, we're going to be meeting with David Eby beginning of October, and we're going to be going to Victoria in November. So we will be taking those petitions and actually taking your signatures to the legislature.
So this isn't an IG petition that's going into a black hole somewhere that nowhere knows. That's just for BLM. I'm a conservative, by the way. I'm joking. I'm joking. I've been joking. Yeah, but this is actually going to be a petition that goes into the hands of a decision maker.
Yeah, we are going to be we understand that like petitions are not the most effective thing on their own. Petitions are a good tool to enable other advocacy and to enable other lobbying. And that's the plan we have. We're going to be taking this, we're going to be giving it to the government, and we're going to be telling them, here are 10, 11, 15, 20,000 signatures. These are people who really want to see this happen. You know that people want this to happen. Now make it happen. So that's the plan we have.
And I think it's a pretty solid plan. I'm going to be popping out on stage, guys. No, I'm just kidding. Unless. No.
Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty solid plan. I mean, I feel like a lot of people get behind it, and I think that you have a pretty solid, like, step-by-step, things to get there, and all that the people need, all that you need is the people, I guess. Mm-hmm. How does it feel to be a young Zoran Mamdani?
When I grow up, I want to be Zoran Mamdani one day. No, that great compliment. I don't think I'm that cool, but I think, yeah, the important thing is really just getting people in the community out and getting people to actually make their voices heard. And that's what I want to do. I want to do something that's going to make the world a bit of a better place. And if this is what I can do right now at 19, then this is what I'll do right now at 19.
And like, I feel like this episode has to be sponsored by Mr. Stanley. This episode has to be sponsored by Mr. Stanley, and it has to be sponsored by having a concerted effort with time and dedication and believing that it's possible. Because without the belief that it's possible, you can't do anything. You need the belief before the action. And you have that belief. And I think after hearing your message, a lot of people will have that belief that this thing can be possible. And now with effort and consistency, we can make it a reality.
I hope so. I really hope we can make this a reality. I want to see Skytrain. I don't want to be waiting for 17 more years. And yeah, I think years down the line, when students come to UBC, instead of seeing a ton of construction on Broadway and hearing about this mythical one-day Skytrain, they're going to actually be able to catch the Skytrain from downtown to come to Imagine Day. So that's what I want to see. That's the UBC that I think we can all envision, and that's the UBC that we can make happen.
And now I'm pumping my chest. I'm saying Skytrain, Skytrain,
Skytrain.
And we're leaving it there. Folks, I think is that it?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Make sure to sign the Skytrain petition.
You can find that at
ams.ubc.ca/Skytrain.
Solomon, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you,
for
Ross.
another episode of Who Is with Ross Oteri. That's it. This
All
is
right.
like a Nardwar thing. I'm not going to freeze.
Awesome.
This has been a Valinov production. Who Is with Ross Oteri is recorded at CITR 101.9 FM on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. The podcast is hosted and produced by Ross Oteri, executive produced by me, Maydha Sood, edited by Soltan Sukareye, with graphic design by Heath Johnson, incidental music by Sean Henry Ikpa, and theme by Ethan Gohring. We'd love to hear your story. Fill out the guest intake form and you too may be featured on the show. Bye.